Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talkin' Knicks. I'll be your host, Greg Poon, today. Jake is out picking up his girlfriend from the airport because he's a nice guy.
That's debatable.
No, it's not. Jake's a nice guy. I'm here with Kenny, my brother, and Tom. Hey, let's talk Knicks. Kenny, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I had a nice little weekend. We had there was a Roaring Twenties end of Prohibition anniversary party or something in the bars of New Haven this weekend. My good friend Tom Piccolo, who is also here, was also there. So
I am here, and I was there. We had a blast.
yeah, and it got a lot more kind of festive than I anticipated. A lot of people dressed up as people from the 20s, wearing their black dresses. They had the suspenders and bow ties, which is kind of normally my look, but Tom doesn't have any 20s clothes, so we didn't actually dress up. I just wore jeans like a person from today.
That's mostly true, but I did rock a 20s style hat, like one of those kind of derby style hats I got from my grandfather. He passed it down to me, and now I wear it to Great Gatsby themed parties.
And that's the only time you ever wear it.
Exclusively then, yes.
Well, I mean, you go to a lot of Great Gatsby themed parties, though, so it gets a good amount of use.
Guilty as charged, my friend.
All right. Well, I'm also doing good. Thanks for asking. I had an eventful weekend myself. Went to a Stanford SantaCon. Everybody dressed up as Santa. I had a Santa hat. I actually ordered a suit, but it didn't get delivered, or it did get delivered, but I don't know where it is because they usually I live in a big apartment building, so they tell me when I get packages, but nobody told me. So it's somewhere. Someone's wearing a Santa suit that I ordered, but such is life.
Yeah, those things are usually pretty wild. I know Tom. I think Tom went to a few in the city.
I did. I used to go to SantaCon or two back in New York. Is it the same in Stanford, Greg? Did it get pretty wild?
Yeah, it was a wild time. It's not New York City, but there were people partying to say the least. Anyway, enough about Santa. Let's talk Knicks. This week we went 1-2, losses to the Trailblazers, win against the Heat, and a loss to the Magic today. Let's go in order. Let's break it down. Loss to the Blazers was absolutely horrible. Knicks didn't look like an actual basketball team for the majority of the game. We're losing by 26 points after three quarters. Finally got it together in the fourth, outscored the Blazers 27-13 in the fourth, but like I said, they were losing by 26 after three, so the 14-point swing didn't do much. Offense scored 37 points in the first half. For comparison's sake, the Blazers scored 37 points in the third quarter, and Trey Thompson also once scored 37 points in a quarter. So
Plays
not,
good.
not the best performance by the Knicks on that day. Let's hear what you guys got. Tom, what are you thinking about this Blazers loss?
Yeah, man, it was not pretty. So going into the game, the Blazers had the second-ranked defense in the league, and you look at that personnel and you just think, like, how could that possibly be, given, they've got their two guards in Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum, who, are not known as plus defenders. They've got a couple guys on the wing who are okay defending the perimeter. You got Evan Turner gets some minutes. Noah Vonleh, I guess, has kind of turned into a defensive player. And then they've got Pat Connaughton out there. It doesn't add up. And then on the inside, you've got Shabazz Napier, another small guard.
Or UConn great.
And then
Let him a natty chip.
Yusuf Nurkic at the center, not trying to protect the rim. So it doesn't make sense that the Knicks wouldn't be able to score on them, but that was the case. They were settling for mid-range jumpers. They were not really running any type of offense, and it was an ugly game in terms of shot selection, and the results kind of bear that out. They were not able to score very well.
Tom, you missed the biggest story of this game, and that's that Joakim Noah got in. He got his first minutes of the season, played 3 minutes, played pretty well, made a layup, which he did not do a single time last year, and that is a scientific fact. But, he brought some energy in his 3 minutes, and, that was good. But like Greg said, the most of the rest of the game was not good. I think I think we're going to talk about it a little later, but without Cantor, they just very little fight and very little energy coming from the team. And, they got down early. And
it was great to see that coming from Noah. When you watch him do it as a part of other teams, you think, oh, I really hate that guy. But when he does it for the Knicks, it's a lot of fun. I was definitely excited. I was amped up for those 3 minutes of Noah.
Yeah, best 3 minutes of the game. And then, things didn't go so great. But, some people had solid stat lines. I know Kylo Quinn had, 11 rebounds and scored 8 points on 4 of 8 shooting, which is not terrible. Tim Hardaway Jr. had another, kind of inefficient shooting night. He went 6 for 18. Porzingis went 6 for 16. And, I think that was my what to watch for at the end of last pod was just how does Porzingis shoot it? And, in that Portland game, he didn't shoot it particularly well. So it's just one of those nights that the ball didn't go in the hoop.
Yeah, it was an absolutely horrible game. The 37 points in the first half really says it all. I want to pull out some positives, but there really wasn't much. The Joakim Noah 3 minutes was good. Michael Beasley was plus 11 off the bench. I don't know if that's good because I don't know if we want him doing good enough to play because I don't know if he should play. I don't know.
He's in a weird spot. There was some positives, I guess, going into like you said, the fourth quarter was a good quarter, and it was particularly good because there was a bunch of guys who don't usually get minutes. Like Billy was out there that quarter, and he, in his few minutes this year, he has been very bad defensively. But while he was out there, the Knicks played very good defense, at least for that, one quarter. And so, I'm gonna try to take that as a positive. And I know, Ramon Sessions had he looked all right in the short time he was out there. So, again, that's a similar situation with Beasley. Like, do we want Ramon Sessions out there a lot? Probably not, but you find the positives where you can, guys.
Yeah, I got another half positive. I don't know, it'd be a positive for you and probably not as much of a positive for me because I'm not just, or I'll just say it and then we'll understand why it's that. Was Frank taking 11 shots. Shot 3 for 11. I know you're all for him firing away, but 3 for 11 is bad. So
it's objectively bad.
So I'm all for it. Shoot some shots, but make them is what I would suggest.
Yeah, that would definitely be better. I think the big thing for Frank is it is good to see him kind of getting comfortable out there, and we saw a little bit more of that tonight. But eventually, the shots are gonna fall. So if you look at any of the stats for any of the rookie guards, they are all shooting terribly from the floor. So I'm not too worried about Frank. Would be better if he was making shots, but at least he's taking them. Next step is to make them, and then we're good.
Yeah, I'll say one funny thing that Frank does. He likes to pump fake from 3, take one dribble, and then shoot a really long 2. That seems to be his go-to move.
That is his go-to move, and I think Tom, didn't you do a little article recently, kind of doing the analysis into the mid-range jumpers from that game and how that was kind of the Knicks' downfall? So maybe it's all Frank's fault, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if we could blame it all on Frank, but I did throw a few stats out there and basically the general idea of it is that a catch and shoot field goal attempt is almost always better than an off the dribble attempt, and mid-range jump shots are among the least efficient shots you can take. If you're able to get to the rim, that's usually more efficient, or if you take a 3, it's worth an extra point, so that kind of balances out the greater degree of difficulty on a three-pointer. So, yeah, the Knicks were just taking they took 32 shots from the mid-range, which is 10 more than their average coming into the game. And they took just a lot of their field goals were just unassisted, right? So that's kind of a measure of if it's a good offense, are they getting assists? Are they moving the ball, or is it a lot of ISO ball? And in this one, it was mostly isolation shots and not a lot of ball movement and sharing the ball going on.
Yeah, and you mentioned the three-pointer. I was going to bring this up later, but I feel like this is a natural point for it. The Knicks are giving up the most three-pointers in the NBA. which is like 12.4 or 5, and they are making the fewest, or not the fewest, the 28th most, the third fewest. So
Yeah, Greg, I'm glad you brought that up about defending threes because I did a little bit of research into that myself. And so not only are they giving up the most threes per game, they're also giving up the most corner threes per game, which is like it's kind of a foot closer than above the break. And so that makes it one of the more efficient shots in the league. And not only that, so they also give up the second most in terms of percentage of opponent shots that are either open or wide open threes. So not only are they giving up a bunch of threes, but they're also the highest proportion of open or wide open shots. Only the Kings give up a little more. So the Knicks are not in good company when it comes to defending the three-point line.
And that just doesn't make kind of a lot of sense, right? Because they have the number one shot blocker in the NBA right now in Kristaps Porzingis. So you'd figure they would, defend a little harder, getting around screens and like be able to pressure the offensive player a little more. But apparently they're just not doing it. And I don't know, I have watched the games and you see just so many wide open threes and it gets a little frustrating at some point. But I just don't understand how that's kind of the norm because they have capable defenders. Like I don't know what you guys think.
No, you're right. They have good rim protectors back there, so you think they'd be able to get out there and more aggressively contest three-pointers. But, I mean, it could just be a personnel thing, too, like Jarrett Jack's getting up there in age. Frank's still learning the ins and outs of NBA defense, even though he's a terrific defender, or he's shown flashes of it, certainly. But, yeah, you're right. It is a little confusing.
Yeah, I mean, the rotations just very often look like they're not even there, really. People just look lost, and then they end up with a wide open three. But then they figure it out in the fourth quarter, so they should just try to do that
the whole game
earlier.
Yeah.
And I mean, moving on from the defending the three, we need to shoot more threes, right, guys?
Yes.
We're giving up. Other teams are making 12.5. We're making about 8.5. So that's 4 points right there. I mean, it's 12 points, but I'm assuming we make 4 more twos to balance it out. So it's 4 free points for the other team. And for in the NBA today, the three-pointer is king. You got the Rockets and the Golden State Warriors who just are launching away. We don't have the personnel that they do, but if they have better personnel and they're utilizing this extra point that's available on each possession, it's something we should consider.
Yeah, you're really fighting against math when you're taking as few threes as the Knicks do. And we talk about the personnel, but like Porzingis is a 40% three-point shooter. Doug McDermott is a 40% three-point shooter. Courtney Lee, another 40+% three-point shooter. And Lee and McDermott just need to just take more, just in terms of volume, just get those shots up. And I think that Hornacek could do a better job of getting them more open looks on a perimeter. But these are borderline knockdown guys, and I just watched McDermott today against the Magic, so that's kind of lingering in my mind how he did not shoot the ball particularly well. But that was a one-game sample. It's just over the course of time, McDermott shooting 5 threes a game is going to be a good thing. I think Hornacek needs to emphasize that.
And the other person that you kind of just glossed over there is you didn't really talk about Timmy, who is in his career is a good shooter. This year, less so. I know we've talked about it before that he's taking a lot of threes and he's not making many of them, which is a problem. But he's a capable shooter. Frank in Europe last year shot over 40%, so he's a capable shooter who's just got to find his stroke. And then Lance Thomas has been, shown flashes of being able to kind of make shots. So they have a lot of guys that can shoot. And maybe it's just a matter of kind of getting the offense more in that direction and setting up their motion offense in order to get more shots at from three rather than the mid-range jumpers and the other shots that they've been getting. So
yeah, one point on Timmy is I was just noting guys who I think should take more threes. Tim Hardaway, he's taken more than 7 a game. I think he's good. He kind of gets it, the numbers game. He probably doesn't need to launch any more than he currently is, but we've got a few, like Porzingis should, Courtney Lee should, McDermott should. Lance Thomas could jack a few more threes. Just overall, this team needs to shoot a little bit more from deep.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is also our feature guys. Not so much Timmy, but Cantor and Porzingis are not the most gifted passers, to say the least. And if we had them being able to better distribute, we could be getting more open threes. So it's something to think about. I mean, enough about. Let's move on to the next game. Big win this week against the Miami Heat. 115-86. Couple big storylines. Return of Enes Kanter, who was amazing in that game. And the biggest storyline of the week, Kristaps Porzingis, 3.5 minutes into the game or something like that, stepped on somebody's foot and
Justice Winslow's
foot, and he sprained his ankle, and he left the game, didn't play the rest of the game. They said he was available to come back. He didn't end up coming back because the Knicks were doing so well. Hopefully that was the reason, but then he didn't play again today, so seems like it wasn't actually the reason. So let's hear your thoughts. Let's start by talking about Enes Kanter and what he did for the team. What do you got for me, Ken?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, in their loss to Portland, like they just didn't have energy and they didn't have the toughness that they needed. I know there was a quick time period where I think Frank got in a fight with someone. So Frank and Beasley got in a fight with someone in the Portland game, but that was the only kind of energy they showed. This game was kind of the complete opposite, right? Where Porzingis went out and everyone was all worried, and then Kanter's out there grabbing rebounds and getting second chance points, and his line was 22 and 14, which is crazy. But I think, and Tom did another piece on him, kind of getting a deep dive into the analysis, and to his credit, one of the things he said was that, while the stats aren't always there, like that doesn't tell the whole story, just because the Knicks just look like a completely different team in terms of, their energy levels and, their ability to actually play basketball. So that's my feeling on the guy. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, Kanter brings just a ton of emotion. He's kind of got that Joakim Noah factor to him as well. The only difference is he has some touch around the rim, and actually a great deal of touch. He seems to make everything within the restricted area. And it was very evident that the Heat were missing Hassan Whiteside because they just had no answers for Kanter down low. I think it was Bam how do you say his last name? Adebayo?
Yep, that's right.
Adebayo. He was the rookie
Adebayo
for the Heat, trying to defend Kanter down there and just had no shot at it. And so, yeah, like the Knicks got 38 shots within the restricted area, made 63% of them. League average is about 57. So, like, they were really strong down low. And the other thing is, which is less sustainable, they were actually taking and making all their mid-range jumpers nearly like at a much greater percentage than normal. So when you're dominating down low and making your mid-range jump shots, then that's like the only instance when it doesn't matter whether you're shooting threes and making them. So the Knicks didn't need the threes.
They only shot 13 threes. Like that's just kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy, Tom. I'm saying. But the other thing I wanted to kind of throw in there was, I know Porzingis only played 2.5 minutes or something like that. But in those 2.5 minutes, he was 2 for 2, and just kind of the Heat tried to send Justice Winslow to guard him, and Winslow's like a foot shorter than him, so he just shot over him twice and made the 2 shots. And then I just assumed that Winslow intentionally injured him to get out of that assignment, and then they lost by 30 anyways. So, that's karma for you.
Yeah. I think his name's Justice. I don't know why
it's with an S.
Can you put a little flair on it?
Yeah. It's something. Another thing to note: everyone on the Knicks played, and everyone had a positive plus minus. That's fun. That's a fun thing to do.
That's fun.
Then another thing. This has nothing to do with the game, but since we're talking about a love for Enes Kanter, did you guys see his tweet about LeBron getting ejected? So he took a screenshot, circled the ref, and said, "King of Cleveland, strive for greatness," or whatever LeBron said after he beat the Knicks. Or
his favorite playground.
After Kyle Korver beat the Knicks. So it was fun. It was a fun thing to do. Everybody should love Enes Kanter, love his energy, love his commitment to the team, love how much he loves the Knicks. So let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I will say he's a very loyal guy, but he also still has some love for the Thunder. Did you see when the Thunder beat the Warriors, he was tweeting it like, like the Thunder were his second family or something. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that was a little suspect. I think that's half love for the Thunder and half hatred for Kevin Durant. So we'll just chalk it up to that.
And him and Steven Adams, I just assume they're like crazy close. We can ask Jake to ask his OKC fans, but like they're the Bash brothers, and they just have that similar caveman look to them. So they're probably pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, people that look the same are always friends with each other. I think that
is how that works.
I think that's a rule.
Bash brothers.
Let's move on. Kristaps Porzingis got injured. I guess we should talk about that. What do you think about that, Tom? You think he'll be all right? You worried? What do you think?
I wasn't worried after they reported that he was able to come back, and they just didn't seem to need him. But today's game against the Magic, they didn't know whether or not they were going to need Porzingis, and they sat him anyway. And now these reports are coming out that he's not even going to make the trip to Indiana for the next game. So I think it's more worrisome than they originally let on. Hopefully they're not pulling like a 76ers franchise on us and kind of obscuring what's really happening on the medical side of things. But, this could just be a cautionary thing. Porzingis is a big guy. He gets these like bumps and bruises from time to time. And I'm not going to overreact to this until something definite comes out.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a like you said, I wasn't worried when he didn't come back in because they were up 30. I wasn't even particularly worried when he didn't play tonight, just because they have a back-to-back, and they've had two other back-to-backs this year where they just sat him the second night. So I thought maybe they're just gonna not play him the first night and play him the second night. But I'm a little more kind of concerned given that he's not making the trip to Indiana. But again, I think this might be a thing where it's like, all right, well, they're going to Indiana for a night and then they're coming back to New York. Maybe they'll just give him an extra couple days rest because they're not playing for this year. So, I think keeping him healthy is probably their most important thing moving forward because he is the centerpiece of the franchise. So I don't I think if this was a different situation where they were fighting for a playoff spot and they thought that they had a chance to win the championship and they're fighting for playoff position, maybe he's out there playing with a couple of these Knicks. But other teams who are in championship contention don't even care about the regular season. So maybe I'm wrong.
So maybe no one cares about the regular season.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though.
Yeah,
I want to push back a little bit just because just last week we were talking about how the Knicks are fighting for an 8 seed or a 7 or 8 seed in the playoffs. So I don't know if our expectations have entirely changed in the past week, but that's kind of something that we've been talking about. So it is worrisome from that perspective if indeed the Knicks and Knicks fans want this team to make the playoffs. Then I don't think throwing away games like to the Magic, which is a winnable game, or to the Pacers, which is still winnable even though they've been playing well. You want to win these games that are kind of toss-ups if indeed you want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a bigger picture, right? Because I agree. I think they have the chance to take the 8th seed in the East, but I don't think that's their ultimate goal moving forward. And I think they're probably more willing to sacrifice a few games this year than let minor injury become a major injury for Kristaps. So that's just kind of how I see things. I don't think it's a serious injury. I just think it's kind of more precautionary.
Yeah, I'm with Tom here. I don't really like your outlook, to be honest. I think we are playing for something this year, which is why we've fielded the team and we've put them on the court. So I think we're going to try and make the playoffs this year. That's been our goal. We've said that a few times. Maybe we're not planning on winning the championship this year, but like Tom said before, playoff experience is going to be invaluable to these guys if that is the bigger picture. There's no team that's going to just make the playoffs for the first time and win the championship. So we might want to just dip our toes into the water before we dive into the deep end next year.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is also going to be making sure that Porzingis stays when his rookie contract is up. So, doing what's best for him makes sense. And, if he's hurt, then yeah, you don't play him. That's a no-brainer. I guess what we don't know is just the severity of the ankle injury, if this is overly cautious, to the detriment of the team, or if this is just a conservative move that needs to happen because he was actually injured, right? So that's a little just speculation on our side that we don't really know about. But in terms of the team's mindset, I should think it would be to make a run at the playoffs, because I don't think that there's a chance that they're going to get like a top 5 seed. They're just not bad enough.
Yeah, they're not going to top 5 pick or a top top 5 seed. They're not going to do either of those.
Either of those. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're somewhere in the middle. I think he is probably actually injured. The if you saw the picture, it looked like it hurt a lot. To be honest,
yeah, it did look bad.
We've all sprained our ankle. It's he couldn't really walk very well. I mean, he was walking a little with the help of Willie. That's what Willie does for the team this year. He helps Kristaps Porzingis when he gets injured. Yeah, he'll be better eventually. Let's move on to tonight's game against the Magic, which we've mentioned. A loss to the Magic. No Tim Hardaway, no Kristaps. Michael Beasley started. Damian Dotson started. The Magic looked horrible. The Knicks looked more horrible, and we ended up losing because we didn't have our 2 best players, and that turned out to be an important factor in this game. So, I mean, I liked a lot of what I saw, being able to see these guys hang into a game without Kristaps and without Timmy, but they went down 17, I think, really early. Gave up a lot of points in the first quarter, which has seemed to be something the Knicks have done every first quarter for the last 3 or 4 years, if not my entire life. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. So what are you guys thinking? Did you like what you saw? I mean, it's tough to judge this game because we didn't have our 2 best players. Did you like what you saw from these other role players? Did you want to see more? I don't know. What do you got for me, Kat?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys know my general philosophy is that if KP doesn't play, then the game doesn't really count. So I guess we just kind of have to see what else we can find within the team. And we've been saying it a lot in the last few pods, and just Courtney Lee has kind of been a very important player on this team, and tonight is no different. He was the guy that they were calling his number down the stretch when it was close, and he had a very good night. He scored 19 points on 8 of 13 shooting, went 1 of 3 from 3, had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. And he's kind of the veteran presence on this team, and he's been around for a while. And I know they were saying tonight he was a rookie on Orlando when they made it to the finals with Dwight Howard. So I think he is. Right now, while they're still in the playoff hunt, he's going to be a very important player, just kind of guiding the rest of these guys, and I think you saw that tonight.
Yeah, no, Courtney Lee was definitely awesome. He was +7 in his minutes, so the Knicks were obviously doing well when he was on the floor. Doug McDermott led the team with a +8 in his 30 minutes. So, I mean, that's a pretty solid plus-minus, and it's not like he played a good amount of minutes despite only going 1 for 7 from the field. McDermott did not shoot the ball well. And there were a couple of frustrating things for me here. One was the Knicks let the Magic shoot just wide open 3 after wide open 3. They got really lucky that the Magic, they shot 28 threes in total, only made 6 of them, going 21% from 3, which is just pathetic. But I was worried about the defense. Maybe even more frustrating, though, was just some of the officiating. I don't like to go to the refs to blame, but I mean the foul disparity, the free throw disparity was 29 free throws for the Magic, 10 for the Knicks. And I mentioned how many threes the Magic were taking too. They were launching from deep and getting a bunch of free throws. Knicks not so much. Some of those were just really ticky-tack fouls.
Yeah, there was that stretch with the 2 in a row called on Michael Beasley when one of them was when Fournier was driving to the hoop and just kind of decided he wasn't going to land on his feet, and the other one was Aaron Gordon shot a 3, missed it, landed, and then just kind of sat down, and they called the foul on on Beasley, and it's just like, what is going on?
I mean, look,
But,
I'm not saying the Knicks played well
yeah.
enough to like deserve to win this game, but it was still frustrating to see the refs take away some of those opportunities, and just on calls that interrupted the flow of the game and just made it less of an enjoyable product to watch, regardless of who you're rooting for. They were just bad calls.
It took the ball out of my boy Frank's hands. They gave him 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes he played. 2 of them probably were fouls. One of them I'm less convinced about, but still.
Yeah, and you mentioned the foul disparity. It was 24-11, and Knicks, I think they fouled twice down the stretch, so we'll call it 22-11, which is still not very even. I know one major most of the bad officiating was in the first and second quarter, I think, and then it continued to be bad, but it was way worse in the first half, I think. But the big call was Mo Spates getting a charge getting called on Michael Beasley. That would have been an and one. I think it would have given the Knicks the lead, maybe, or made it close. So that was in the fourth quarter. Also, I should mention that. So that hurt our chances of winning. And then, I mean, like Tom said, a lot of open threes. Luckily, they missed. Didn't see a lot of good stuff from many people. I don't know. Frank went 4 for 9, which was promising.
Yeah.
He had 9 points. You always love to see Frank do good. He
hit a 3.
He made a 3, which is worth. That's what we've been talking about. We need more of that. And one thing I want to mention about Frank, his on-the-ball defense looked good today, but he lost DJ Augustine a couple of times off the ball, and one of those ended up in a wide-open 3, and another one ended up in a wide-open 3 that didn't go in. One ended up going in, the other one didn't. And again, Frank on offense is just feels very methodic, I'll say, if not robotic. And part of that today is you don't have the two people who create their own shot. So it's not entirely his fault today, but there were times today where I remember one play he just gave the ball to Kyle O'Quinn and then ran away, and Kyle O'Quinn was just standing at the top of the key, like trying to not dribble, and it just got ugly for a little bit when Frank was in. And what did we think about the fourth quarter when Jeff Hornacek decided to put in Ramon Sessions for the
that was
with Ron Baker?
No, I'm with you. That was kind of ridiculous. Like, it was a very close game. I think it was 3 points at that time, and then they put in Ramon Sessions, who hadn't played all game, and you got to give you can't just throw a cold guy into a close game like that, like if there's no reason for it, right? Because they had Frank on the bench, and they had Jarrett Jack, who had an okay game. Like he had 9 points and 7 assists. Like, why did that happen?
It was completely mind-boggling that Ramon Sessions made his way into the game. That was the first moment when I was like, maybe Hornacek wants this pick. like there's just no way that's what you do when you want to win a basketball game. Jarrett Jack was +3 in his 27 minutes. Jack's capable of playing more than 27 minutes in a game. So like that.
And Frank only played 16, so like
he had some foul trouble too. Frank did, but but Jarrett Jack, there's no excuses there. Like he certainly should have been in during that fourth quarter stretch. If he needs a breather, then sure. Like Frank could sop up a few minutes, but I mean, Sessions was in for 4 minutes. He was -5 while he was out there, and was just not a contributor in any way.
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of rip on Sessions, which I've been doing most of the season, because he played some decent basketball this week. He had a couple games where he was getting to the rim and he was getting buckets, but I don't think you put him in a good position. Where
he was put in a position to fail. You're right.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because he hadn't played all night. And you're just going to throw him into a 3-point game down the stretch in the fourth quarter? Like, I don't know if that's the best play.
All right, and one thing I want to bring up here, and I want to get Greg's opinion on it too, because I know Greg is a big fan of bucket getters. So Michael Beasley, people are going to look at his line and see that he led the team in scoring. He was 10 and 19 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3. He ended up with 21 points. He had 3 rebounds and an assist. Also 5 turnovers. And some questionable defense. I'm curious what you guys thought about his overall performance and what he brings to this team.
I think that I told you guys this while we were watching the game, but I think the one play that basically just defined Michael Beasley and what we've seen from him all year was at the end of the game, Knicks were down 5 with 14 seconds left. He gets the ball top of the key, just stands there with the ball for like 8 seconds, and then drives and gets a layup. And then we're losing by 3 with 3 seconds left. So good job, Michael Beasley. Thank you for the basket, but there's no longer any chance of us winning this basketball game. And he's a good scorer. He can fill it up. He's a horrible defender. His baskets all seem to come with entirely stopping the offense. It's just Michael Beasley and then 4 other people standing somewhere else, and the ball's not coming back out. He's just going to do his own thing. But he is a bucket getter, which is fun to watch. It's not necessarily effective and probably doesn't help us, doesn't contribute to winning basketball, I would say.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with just everything Greg just said. And I think this is just going to be his role where, if there's a night where they don't have Tim Hardaway Jr., they don't have Kristaps Porzingis, throw him out there. He'll get you 20, but, it's not going to be good for kind of the rest of the team because, like Greg said, he's going to get his 20 by, he's going to drive it to the hoop himself. He's going to, pull up from the side like he likes to shoot it, and he's not really going to do much for anyone else. So, that's probably just going to be his role, to get buckets when our other bucket getters aren't out there.
Yeah, and the one thing is, if they called an and one on that play I previously mentioned where Michael Beasley got called for a charge, we'd be singing a different tune. We'd be saying how this guy won us a game. Well, we didn't have Kristaps and Timmy, so he is important. Like, I don't know if he should be a rotation player, but it's kind of weird. Like, if we don't have Kristaps or Tim Hardaway, we just put this guy who isn't even in the rotation in as like our feature player. And I agree with it. Is the craziest part.
Yeah, no, actually, it's funny to think that way because he's not good at being a role player, but he's serviceable as the main contributor. So like we've been saying, when Kristaps and Timmy are out, what I'm curious though is if Timmy were healthy for this game, and we should talk about him, by the way. If he were healthy, then what would Beasley's role have been? With Hardaway on the floor, Hornacek's got some tricky juggling acts to perform with this roster, and Beasley definitely presents kind of an interesting situation.
I think if Tim Hardaway Jr. was out there, it probably would have been pretty similar for both Beasley and Hardaway, where they're both chuckers. Hardaway's going to get his shots up. The people who weren't going to get shots if that was the situation where Jarrett Jack shot 10, Courtney Lee shot 13. Courtney Lee went, he had a great game. A lot of it was kind of by design where he was the focal point of the offense for a little while there. And he's not going to get all those shots if that's the case. Lance Thomas shot 11 shots, which I have to imagine is somewhere around his season high. So a lot of those shots would have just – and Timmy and Beasley would have just gotten their shots, and everyone else would have just been there watching.
All right, yeah, I'll agree with all that. And one thing before we get to the Tim Hardaway Jr. injury, I want to bring up quickly is what you guys think about Ron Baker? The kid was back, and that's partially goes with Hornacek putting in Sessions in the fourth quarter after he decided to put in Ron Baker earlier in the game instead of Sessions. I think that was partly because Hardaway's more of a two-guard. Hardaway is a two-guard, and Baker is more capable of playing that. I mean, kind of. Like, probably not. He's taller. This is the only metric that makes him more capable. So, what'd you see? He played solid defense, made it one good pass, and other than that, still looked like he shouldn't be in the NBA. So, what'd you guys think?
I'm kind of on the same page as you again. I've never really been a Ron Baker fan. I think the big thing is, like, he tries really hard, but he's not good at basketball. So, like, I don't know what to do with the guy. You know,
You got to be good at basketball to be a professional basketball player in this league. And
you would think.
yeah, I mean, I could do with less Ron Baker. I could do with less of a financial obligation towards Ron Baker, just less Ron Baker in general. I'm sure maybe not less children's books. I could do with more children's books written by Ron
Have you
Baker.
read his children's book?
I haven't read it
Greg?
yet, but when I have a child, I plan to.
Greg bought it for our nephew, and like it's an all right children's book, and then at the end, the last thing he says is just completely out of nowhere. Like,
Well, that's
crazy.
I don't think that's what it is. It's like the whole book rhymes, and then like the last line just isn't in the right measure, is what it was. You're like, this is decent, and then you get to the end, you're like, what? Wait, this is supposed to be in this measure. So that just shows you he's not good at writing either. So
Just a parable for Ron Baker's game.
it's like oh nope, and then so let's get to the big story. Tim Hardaway Jr. injury. They said it was a leg injury. I don't know.
Some sort of stress injury, I guess. So I think they wanted to just kind of keep off his feet.
We got some kitchen action going on somewhere. What's happening over there?
Yeah. My girlfriend's trying to break into the drawer to get some spoons or something. Don't really know what's going on. Apparently, the drawer's not working.
All right, we'll let Tom field the question while she figures that out. So Tim Hardaway Jr. had a leg injury. I don't think they didn't give any more details. They thought he was going to play today. Something happened while he was warming up, I guess, and now he's out today. He's out tomorrow. So we don't really know anything. Should we be worried? They've been talking about him being injured all year with a foot thing, but now there's a leg injury. I don't know if this is the same thing.
That's what I'm wondering is this foot thing related to the foot bones connected to the leg bone situation where it's all sort of one injury. I mean, it is kind of worrisome just given that we don't know anything about it, and whenever there's mystery involved and they aren't transparent with their fans, then there's going to be a lot of speculation about it. I hadn't noticed Hardaway Jr. looking slow. That certainly hasn't been his problem. I think he's looked pretty good getting to the basket. It's just he hasn't been shooting the ball well. And, maybe you wouldn't shoot the ball well if you had an injured leg. So
there you go.
Yeah, maybe.
There you go, Tom. That's the answer to the season, is that Tim Hardaway Jr. can't shoot because of his leg. And so once we get this fixed, he's going to be, back up to normal shooting numbers. Love it.
It would be nice. His shooting numbers have not been strong. So
yeah, and so I guess we should flag it until we hear more. It's been we just don't have enough information to make an educated decision on how we should feel. So Tim, hope you're all right. We don't know. Let us know.
If you're listening, give us a call. Let us know how things are.
That'd be perfect. So let's talk a little bit more about the playoffs. I know Kenny's 100% against it. It seems like. I think if we went
exactly.
If we qualified, I don't think he would want them to attend. I think he would want them to decline the invitation. So, what are you thinking? We are currently 500 and 9th in the East. It seems like the Eastern Conference playoffs is taking shape. The teams that you would expect to be 1 through 8 or 1 through 10 are there. The Miami Heat are starting to figure it out. They're climbing up the rankings. They're in 10th. We just smashed them though, even though they didn't have their best player. The teams that you question are the Pistons real? They're 5-5 in their last 10. Are the 76ers real? And are the Pacers for real? So you expect the Celtics, Cavaliers, Raptors, Bucks, and Wizards to make the playoffs and to be those top 5 seeds basically. So are we in the same? Are we in the mix for this 8 seed? Do we think?
Yeah, so I think the question becomes who potentially could drop down out of that group, and you listed them. I think that the Sixers. First of all, I think the Pistons are real in that they could definitely be vying for home court. I don't think there's a chance that the Pistons drop out of the playoffs. I've watched them play a little bit, and something seems to be working there. Maybe it's Avery Bradley. Maybe it's Stan Van Gundy's kind of got his players more bought in now. But Reggie Jackson looks a little healthier, and Andre Drummond's just been sensational. So and this isn't talking Pistons, but I just don't think they're going to drop out. 76ers, same thing, where they look really talented. They're just so much bigger. Their starting lineup is huge, with Ben Simmons like really running the point.
The thing with the Sixers always is that they got to stay healthy because all of those guys have injury history. So, to the extent they stay healthy, I'm with you, though.
No, and where I'm going with this basically is I think Giannis isn't going to let his team fall out. I think the Wizards are good. It's the Pacers. I really do think it's that 8th spot that the Knicks have a chance to contend for. It'll be Pacers, Knicks, Heat. I don't think the Magic will be in contention. The Hornets have really struggled, even though I thought they'd be in the mix there. And so, just really those 3 teams, Pacers, Knicks, and Heat, fighting for that 8th seed. And, I think the Knicks have as good of a shot as any of them to make it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I'm not against the Knicks making the playoffs. I just, I think that they are, right there for that 8th seed. I'm just, it's not a great spot to be, right? If they get into the playoffs, like Greg said, getting some playoff experience, that's good. Being just out of the playoffs is not a great spot to be. But I do think they can challenge for that spot, and they are going to play the Pacers next game, so they have the chance to jump them in the standings and get back in there, and then we could just end the season there and we'll be in.
Hey, there's a good idea. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think, it's just a coin flip, a 3-sided coin. If they make those, it's one of those.
So those 3-sided coins.
Yeah, I don't know. We've beaten the Pacers earlier this season. We just beat the Heat, so. I don't know. We are on the same level as those teams. We need to stay healthy as well. We need Kristaps to continue to play as well as he has. I know he's slowed down from what he was doing in the beginning of the year, but I think we've had some other players pick it up, like Timmy. So it's evening out. We just need some consistency. We need to win games, and that leads me to the next story. Are the Knicks Are the Knicks' road woes real?
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, right? It wasn't. It was very difficult. That's why I had to cough and pretend like I had to clear my throat because I messed up. So we've been bad on the road and good at home. And unfortunately, this week we had 3 home games and we went 1-2. So that's a bad sign as well. So what's up with the road? Kenny, I know you had some stats about what's about to happen to our schedule. So let's hear from you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is something that we touched on a little bit last week in that their road splits aren't that bad or aren't as bad as they look because they've only, the teams that they've lost to on the road for the most part are good teams. Then, 2 weeks ago they lost to the Hawks, and then that's all out the window. But the big thing that you're referencing is the fact that from December 14th to March 9th, the Knicks will play 27 out of 39 games on the road. And that includes a stretch from December 27th to February 2nd, so basically the entire month of January, that they will play 16 of 20 on the road, which is a lot of road games. And that's, like I said, that's starting on December 14th, so like 2 weeks from now. And, that stretch is pretty much going to inform of whether these road woes are real because, they're just going to be playing a lot of road games. So, I'm not ready to kind of fully say that they actually have a huge issue where they're a terrible road team and they're, they're going to be 1-6. That's going to continue. But if it is an issue, we're going to find out real soon,
Yeah, I think one positive, though, Kenny, is that 2 of those upcoming road games will be at the Brooklyn Nets. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. So it's like a road game at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to complement our stretch of road games, where we find out where we stand, we got a stretch right now against a lot of bad teams, and we should find out who we are. That'll let us find out who we are even sooner. We're about to play the Pacers, who are 1 game over, Grizzlies, Bulls, Hawks, Lakers, Nets, Thunder, Hornets. in that order. So those are all. That's a lot of bad teams. The Thunder are really the only team who you think should be good. All the Hornets are a team that you think is capable, but you're not surprised at where they are. So this next stretch is going to show us who we are. If we should win these games, I mean, there's no hard teams in here, so that means that we're going to be playing hard teams later. Is what I'm trying to say. So we need to win now.
Yeah, and I'm with you because I get what you're saying in that they're going to be playing some road games, but they're going to be playing road games against teams that they should beat. So, if the weight of being on the road is heavier than the weight of playing a bad team, then that's a bad sign. So I get you. I get your meaning, and you're right. We're going to find this out very soon as we have Indiana and Chicago are both on the road this upcoming week. So, 2 winnable games on the road.
Yeah, I mean, as long as everyone's healthy, those are definitely both extremely winnable. And actually, regardless of who the Knicks trot out against the Bulls, that'll be winnable. So,
Love to hear it. So let's just talk about this upcoming week. I know we started now. The Pacers, Grizzlies have been struggling. Bulls have been, I don't even want to say struggling. They're just bad. And then the Hawks beat us earlier this year, which was unfortunate. So what are we thinking? We don't have our 2 best players tomorrow. So I'm going to say we'll expect a loss to the Pacers, who have been playing well. I think I speak for us all. Then Grizzlies, Bulls, and Hawks. What are you guys thinking?
I'm not ready to rule the Indiana game out. I know we don't have our players, but like we said, we could just trot Michael Beasley out and he'll just, replace them. So I'm thinking we could go 3-1. I think the Memphis game the Indiana game is actually going to be the pivot game, as Jake would say. If we lose that game, I see a 2-2, but I think that's a winnable game. I know they've been playing better, but that's a winnable game. That's a potential budding rivalry game, as kind of evidenced by the last time we played them, which was another tremendous game. So anything can happen. So I'm going to be the optimist and say 3-1. Boom.
Yeah, Kenny, you're giving a lot of respect to the Atlanta Hawks there. I know they beat us on the road before, but I mean, in the Garden, we'll see.
What
I know.
I'm saying 3-1. I'm saying the Indiana game is the pivot.
Yeah, that was me.
I'm not giving any respect.
I was the one talking about the Hawks being.
Oh, my bad. That's my fault. So I got a lot of grief from you guys last week when I picked the 1-2 week. Some of that was I baked in some of the injuries into that. That was back when Kristaps,
you knew that.
That was back when Kristaps had the lower back thing, though. When he sat out for lower back, I obviously didn't know about the ankle, but I wasn't sure that he was going to play all 3 games just because of the back thing. It ended up being something else entirely, which isn't comforting. But so I was the pessimist last time. I didn't like being that guy, and I am thinking 3-1 here. I like when we talk about the pivot game. So I watched the Grizzlies play the Spurs last night, and they can't score against. I mean, the Spurs have a pretty good defense, so maybe that's not a great measuring stick. But the Grizzlies just don't have an offense without Mike Conley. Like Tyreek Evans is their best hope, and he's really coming back down to earth. I don't think the Grizzlies are going to be able to score even against the Knicks, frankly. And the Bulls suck, and the Hawks, they're not. The Knicks aren't going to lose 2 in a row to the Hawks. So yeah, the Pacers game, I could see them losing. So 3-1. I'm going to agree with Kenny here and stick with that.
The Grizzlies have lost 11 in a row, which is good. But you also are like, how many? They're not that bad. They're not a team that loses 11 in a row. So we don't want to be the team where the law of averages finally works itself out and they get a W.
No, it's a trap game. It's definitely a trap game for sure.
And I guess
they're in disarray right now. They just fired Fizdale. Conley's injured. Marc Gasol was very unhappy with the coaching staff for benching him, and then that ended with Fizdale getting fired. So, 4-0. Boom. Changing my mind.
Wow.
Officially, Kenny, you're on the record for 4-0.
No, I think either Indiana or Memphis. I think we could potentially lose one of those 2 games. So I'm sticking with 3-1. But
okay.
but we could go 4-0.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say it's 3-1 because We're gonna lose to the Pacers. We don't have our two best players. We just lost to the.
We got Beasley.
We just lost to the Magic, who are absolutely horrible. I don't know if you guys watched. They shot 6 for 28 from 3. We talked about it on this pod. Are you guys kidding me? The Magic were so bad.
The Magic are horrible.
They've lost so many games in a row. They lost. I think they lost 10 in a row and then beat the Thunder, and now they beat us.
That's right. And one other thing to look out for, though, is that the Hawks game on Sunday is the second night of a back-to-back. So they're in Chicago, and they come back home to play the Hawks. And, that is a risky thing, especially if Kristaps is healthy. Maybe they still don't want to play him on the second night of a back-to-back. So that's another one to look out for. There's a couple games in here where the Knicks are just going to have to come to play.
Yeah, I mean, while we're at it, let's just say the Bulls game is one to look out for if we're just going to do that.
Let's not make that leap.
Yeah. So as far as the Indiana game, maybe it's just kind of my growing up in a Knicks household, but I am never ready to concede defeat to the Indiana Pacers. Like I know Tom's from Indiana, but like I generally hate the state, and maybe that's why I hate Tom so much. This is all starting to make a lot of sense.
Love Indiana.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's a loss. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep saying it until you guys finally come around and admit it. But we're all on the record for 3-1 week, which is great. That'll get us back over 500, and hopefully that'll get us back in the playoff picture. And the Pacers game is the big one, to be honest, because that's our competition that we've been talking about.
Yep.
So
right ahead of us in the standings.
So that game's kind of worth two games in the big scheme of things. So
yeah,
so 3-2.
It's unfortunate that we're going to lose it.
If we win that game, then it's a 4-1 week, is what you're saying.
Essentially.
Yeah, I'm with you. 4-1.
It'd be a 4-0 week. It'd be a 5-0 week, actually.
If we beat Memphis too. For you, all right. I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. So this upcoming week, that's at least the Grizzlies, Bulls, and Hawks. 3-1. Lock it in. I was right last week. I'll be right again this week.
All right, I love it. Anybody else got anything else to say? Did we cover it all? I think we had a good pod. We didn't have Jake. I think he kind of holds us back with his segments. He says, "Oh, now let's move on to this segment that's identical to the last segment with a different name." So we didn't do that today. I think that made the pod better. I don't know. Hope Jake doesn't listen to this.
I doubt he would. I
hope no one listens to this.
Any parting thoughts?
I just want to see. I'm interested to see who starts tomorrow, just because the Damian Dotson experiment did not work so well tonight, and I'd like to see Dougie Buckets get that start in place of Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, I want to see the Knicks. It's going to be all about the three-point line for me. Defending the three-point line and shooting more threes. Just got to do it. Got to catch up to the rest of the league here and stop shooting all your mid-range jumpers.
Yeah, and I'll say, to go along with Kenny, maybe not who's starting, but who's contributing tomorrow. And we need more out of McBuckets. He's one of our scorers, and he went 1 for 7 today, which ended in a loss. So maybe if McBuckets is on, with this 4-0 week will happen. But that's all I got for this week. I think we did a great job. We'll see you again next week when the Knicks will be 3-1, and we'll be talking about the 3 wins and the 1 loss. And there'll be good times. So, hey, great talking Knicks with you guys.
All right, thanks, guys.